I think we had this conversation during the campaign on television together. The asymmetry of the way Donald Trump ran against you and Secretary Clinton was almost, in hindsight, unbeatable. I mean, there was no moral compass. There was no adherence to norms. There was no, I mean, I'll let Jeremy weigh in on whether saying I love it to a foreign adversary is illegal. Jeremy, quickly, is that illegal to say I love it to a foreign adversary, promising dirt on Hillary Clinton?
It depends on the context. If it's accepting an offer of collusion, it can cross a legal line, yes. But go ahead. I'll go back to Joel, and then I'll give you a more complete idea on this.
In hindsight, I mean, how could you have adjusted to have defeated someone like this?
Well, I think you have to go back to the premise and recognize that he was an unconventional candidate from the beginning. He went further than a lot of people thought, even in the Republican primary. It took a long time for that to sink in. And then you have to still try to run your campaign. You can't get caught up in his game.
But the question always gets put to you guys, to you, to Jen Palmieri, to Secretary Clinton. How did you lose to this guy? I think that when we see the sort of lengths they went to, how could you beat someone who was willing to accept help from a foreign adversary?
Well, look, if 40,000 people voted differently in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, we would have beat him. That's how close this was.
Do you think that vote was fair and square with everything you know now?
Well, I think a lot's still unfolding. I think we definitely thought Russia was meddling in the election during the summer of last year. We thought all the evidence pointed to it. Hillary Clinton brought it up in the debates. Whether it got enough attention at the time remains to be seen, and I think this is going to play out over many more months. It is tarnishing his presidency. It is tarnishing his approval ratings. You have 23% of Republicans, 19% who say he acted unethically, another 4% who say illegally. That's 1 out of 4 Republicans think he behaved unethically or illegally when it comes to Russia. Those are not good numbers, and if I was a Republican Congress, I'd start paying attention to how bad his numbers are really below the surface with Republicans.
Right.
Yeah, so to piggyback on what you're saying, I think that it's not just well, at the time it wasn't the Trump administration, but what Donald Jr. did and what the Trump campaign did. It's also that there's this ecosystem of fake news, which includes all of this Russian meddling. There was a new report that just came out called the Fake News Machine. And so whether things were true or false, we also have to remember that the Russians were constantly inserting anti-Clinton messaging into the election. And now there are these new reports that South Carolina's voting machines had over 100,000 attempted hacks. So there's the question of what happened in terms of the Trump administration actually accepting, you know, possible information and collusion. There's the fake news ecosystem, which we know about, and I wouldn't rule out that there was some vote tampering. We don't know for sure, but we need to keep following that too.
Frank, what is the gut check? I mean, to me, it's that I always sort of wake up in the middle of the night and feel like, oh my God, we've been asking the wrong question. And I really think on this question of you know, why couldn't Hillary beat this guy? I mean, how could you win against someone? I mean, this is just what we know about because Don Jr. apparently got backed into a corner by a reporter from your paper, and so he put this out. But how do you? And this to me is the asymmetry of our last conversation was about a news organization, CNN, firing investigative journalists. What do you do about just the asymmetrical, unethical nature of this president?
Well, I mean, you're talking about the past and what happened during the election. I think at this point what you do is what you see the media doing, what we're doing at this table, which is you demand and search for answers. And I agree with what both of these two said. The story's not going away because when you peel everything back, the central question is, did we actually have a fair election that was fairly fought, in which we got a result that truly reflects what a majority of Americans thought should happen for the country? That's an enormous, enormous question. I don't recall that question existing in this form in any election in my lifetime, quite to this extent. Because that's such a big question, and because everything you get from Trump world is quarter truths or outright lies or omissions, evasions, every day some new piece of information comes out that tells us again that we can't trust anything we've heard to date. We will be back at this table in a year. We'll be having a very similar conversation. It'll just be a new set of facts and meetings, and this is not going away.
Jeremy Bash, I want to have you weigh in on the legal side of this. What does Bob Mueller do with a team that struggles so openly and really in a scary way with the truth?
Well, Bob Mueller, I think, is going to focus on a couple of important federal criminal statutes, and he's going to look at the facts and apply them to these statutes. And first is whether or not they crossed any legal lines with respect to the Federal Election Campaign Act, which obviously, Nicole, as you know, prohibits accepting anything of value from a foreign national, let alone a foreign government. And of all the individuals in that meeting...
Let me stop you right there, because I want to bring Steve Schmidt on this question. Steve, I don't know if you watched Jay Sekulow make the rounds yesterday, but there was a moment in an interview that he had on another network where he was asked about whether or not whether this was something of value. The Russians promising to help Hillary Clinton or to help hurt Hillary Clinton to advantage Donald Trump. Was that a violation? And he had a very technical answer. Steve, I wonder if you think that a campaign violation may have been committed by this meeting with Don Jr.
Well, it's certainly possible. The one thing I know for sure, Nicole, is that the arbiter of what's legal or illegal in this matter is not Jay Sekulow. The special counsel, ultimately the Justice Department, will make a determination if there's enough evidence there for there to be a criminal indictment. And so the one thing we know for sure is that at every instance, as this story has unfolded, and really since hour one of the administration, we've never seen an administration be serially more untruthful. Lie after lie after lie, compounding on each other. This story evolving and changing really almost on a quarter-hour basis. So is it possible that when they were scheming with what they thought were Russian government officials that a legal line was crossed? It's highly possible. The special counsel will make the determination on that. But we do know enough to know that it was certainly dishonorable, it was unethical, and it is abhorrent behavior that has never been seen in any campaign for the president, Republican or Democrat, in the modern era.
All right, we're just hitting pause. No one's going anywhere. I missed him too much. We're going to be right back